r/askreddit. What are some things that regular people will likely never get to experience? Going to space. As a child of the space age, I thought we would be closer than we are now. We felt much closer in 1975. Back then, we were at least trying. My daughter says she can be anything she wants, except an astronaut, because space is too dark. My parents told me that I could be anything I want when I grow up. I could be a scientist, an engineer, an astronaut, or even the president of the United States. I still remember my exact response: I be choo-choo train. My friend is a neurologist and years ago Canada had openings for astronauts. He had a lot of education, but maybe not quite enough. Brain doctor is not smart enough, but he applied anyway, just to get the rejection letter, so he could honestly say that he tried. This was decades ago, and last summer he mentioned that he found the letter in a desk. And he was right. He never regretted not trying to be an astronaut. He has to settle for a ridiculously wealthy brain surgeon instead. There's a joke in there somewhere. Something it's not brain surgery, it's rocket science. I'm fine with this. My 3-year-old asked if he could be an astronaut when he got big. When I said yes, I wondered if I really would be okay with him leaving the planet. I fully planned on being an astronaut when I was in high school. Mom always thought I was joking. Finally she got tired of me telling everyone I was going to be an astronaut. When they asked what my plans after high school was, she told me you can't just go to college to become an astronaut. There's no astronaut degree. I told her my plan was to join the Air Force and get an aerospace engineering degree, then detailed the mental and physical tests astronauts have to do. She was not okay. She cried and begged me not to. So now I'm a boring pharmacist. I don't know if I would actively try to stop my kid from doing it, but it would be scary. Going to space is amazing, but also dangerous. It's natural to fear the worst for your kids. Ride in a F-15 doing the speed of sound. Danger Zone playing intensifies. Hearing your own music on the radio. My bandmates and I were fortunate that we had a couple of radio stations that played local bands. One was them playing a song off our EP, the other was us playing live. The live one was also the only time I got stage fright. I panicked and couldn't remember how to start a song. The smell of someone bleeding out, unless you're in the medical field or a serial killer. Blood in large quantities has a really overwhelming, nauseating metallic smell. I know this smell. I hid the fact that I had ulcerative colitis for an entire year before slipping up and getting caught by my grandmother. I remember it quite vividly. It started with my primary care. My normal doctor was off on Fridays, so I had to see someone else. We didn't particularly care for this doctor, but whatever. I tell him my entire abdomen hurts, and I'm severely bloated, plus I'm passing nothing but blood. He pushes on my painful stomach and determines it's a blockage. Give her Dulcolax and enemas every 4 hours. If it doesn't work by Monday, take her to the hospital. I had lost so much blood by Saturday that I could not move out of my bed. My dad had to carry me to the car, and they drove me to the ER. I had 3 blood transfusions. It was only a year of failing treatments before I was told I had to have surgery to remove my entire large intestine. The pediatric gastroenterologist looked at me and said, either you have this surgery or you will bleed to death. I will never forget those words. I was 13 at the time. I had my entire large intestine removed, and it cured the UC. I developed Crohn's disease later in life due to UC, but it is well managed by a wonderful gastroenterology team. Edit. Thanks for the reward, kind Redditor. Winning the lottery. The odds of winning the lottery are incredibly slim, so most people will never even come close. Even if you do win, the money can come with a lot of problems, such as family and friends asking for handouts. Someone has to win it. Might as well be me. Can't win it if you're not in it. I was going to say being violently compressed in a shady submarine, but that probably does happen occasionally. I'm not sure they actually experienced it though. Correct. Died so fast it wasn't even a blink of an eye or a moment even. It was just that fast. A stranger coming to see you perform music and knowing the words to your song. It was wild waking up to this kind of response. It's awesome that so many people have experienced this from both sides of the fence. Thanks for the gold, stranger. I saw the notification and then realized my coffee maker was overflowing and could not find it again to give a proper shout out. Now that's cool. Absolute silence in nature. 2 years ago, I stopped to fix my glove on top of a mountain while skiing. Everyone else had gone down by the time I was done and the total silence of everything hit. No wind, no other voices, couldn't even see anything man-made because it was a near whiteout. Just me, the snow, and the shapes of the trees. I might be getting too deep into this, but the overwhelming weight that silence made me feel like I fit perfectly into everything for a moment. I don't think something like sensory deprivation could even come close to it. Now, any regular person could experience something like that, and I hope anyone who wants to and even those who don't really care do, in fact, have an experience akin to mine. But it was such a chance collision of many different factors that I think it lies far enough outside of the norm. Absolute silence is rare. I only experienced it once in an eastern Oregon desert. I was driving down a noisy dirt road singing along to the music when I stopped to check if I had a rock stuck in my tire. It was between two low hills that blocked the desert wind. When I stepped out of the car it was perfectly still and silent. No noises from insects or animals. Nothing. It was incredible. I had something similar in a desert as well. Once you notice how little sound there can be, you really notice how much sound we create. I was at a private pool with the CEO's family in Vegas. It cost hundreds of dollars to rent a chair there. He rented out the entire private pool for us, with a guard at the entrance. So while the group of us idiots drank in the pool, played chicken, and were super loud, we kept seeing heads pop over the hedges to view the celebrities that had rented out the entire private pool. We waved and drank our 32 ounces Red Bull Palamas. Man, were they all disappointed when they realized it was just a bunch of crayon eaters. Oh, you're a Marine? The ability to see sound is different colors. Those people who have that ability blow my mind and I honestly don't understand how they can function. I feel like it would drive me insane. I dialed the wrong number once and was connected to light blue. It's only ever happened to me once, but it was the craziest thing. It was a tone, a single, solid, drawn out tone that sounded exactly like light blue. I taste purple all the time. Constipation. When the term regular immediately goes to one meaning. I hate that you had to explain it to me. Being an astronaut. This is an incredibly demanding and competitive career that requires years of training and education. There are only a few hundred people who have ever been astronauts, and most of them are scientists or engineers. In reality, many of them are dual professionals, and simply being an expert in one field is often not enough. Not just not enough, it would be wasteful to send up an engineer and a medical doctor if you can send up one person who is both. Cutting into human flesh. I'm a doctor. When I was a kid I went for dinner to a friend's house. Her dad was a neurosurgeon. He was talking about an operation he did that day and I remember being so horrified. I was sitting at a table with a guy who a few hours before cut the top off someone's skull and fiddled with their brains. I'll never forget that creepy feeling of realizing just what doctors do. Simultaneous actual happiness and financial freedom. You found one. I'm regular, actually happy and achieve financial freedom. Can I get $200? Getting to be on a super yacht. I got to have lunch on a super yacht once. A billionaire told his crew he might want to use it over a long weekend, so they spent months sailing from somewhere in the Pacific to the Hamptons. He also had his private pilots in the New York City area. The billionaire changed his plans last minute, and I was friends with the pilots, so they invited me on the super yacht. I got to hang out with people who were living the absolute life. There were like 2 Michelin star chefs, shipmates, masseurs, and some other rich people minions. They told me about how they just sail around the world, having a fantastic time and only have the boss on maybe once a year. After a fantastic lunch and hanging out, they got word to sail to New Zealand by Christmas. Edit. Sail not said. Stupid autocorrect. It's a totally different world, isn't it? I was working in Abu Dhabi and a so-and-so invited me on yacht that cost $10 million per year just to operate. Da fuck. We all went to Singapore and Sydney with small stops on the way and back. One morning I was having a croissant, and I was asked by one of the chefs what I'd like for breakfast the following morning, and I said, "What's my options?" The answer was, "Sir, whatever you'd like." I just wanted bread, some cheese, and honey I guess. I don't know how the tuck they did it, but they got bread, artisanal cheese and honey from my home tucking state in the US. I didn't even know we made honey. Would you like anything to read? Yes, I think I'll pick up a National Geographic when we get to Singapore. Otherwise I've got my Kindle. They brought the latest to me at a fast stop at Uveri, India, wherever the tuck that is. It was a great time, but very eye-opening. I mean, I know there are people with money, but it's just weird how different. Macheath 1, darling, you've been to New York. You must fly out to visit us maybe the week after we get home and recover and show us around. That would be marvelous. How am I gonna be able to do that? Correctly estimating how long a deer has been dead on the side of the road to decide whether or not it's safe to eat, because there's only so long you can eat rice and stewed tomatoes. I survived poverty and all I got was a stomach capable of digesting car batteries. What is the correct method to know if it's safe or not? I'm gonna say smell is high up on the list. Personal anecdote, because I like to say I ruined every other date for this girl after working at an airport. We flew from Columbus, Ohio to Miami Beach, FL for about 6 hours. Took a bus to the beach, swam, then came home. I paid less for the plane tickets than she did for Arby's. I'm a flight attendant and once I took a day trip, 6-hour flight each way, to Anchorage to catch a region-locked Pokemon in Pokemon Go, Pachirisu. I had nothing better to do that day and the flights were free. I dressed up in some warm cute clothes and set off to make a day of it. I also already had monthly parking I paid for my job, so the parking was free too. The only cost for my trip to Alaska and back, the gas it took to get me to / from the airport at home. And before anyone accuses me of destroying the environment, I didn't check flights until after I had woke up that morning. Those flights were going with or without me. They just happened to have a few available seats. Pain-free days. If I'm interpreting regular people correctly, from my perspective, I see regular people as people who don't have a chronic pain condition. The sensation that is a pain-free day or even a moment is like my whole body gets a vacation, a summer day, elation. Regular people take painlessness for granted. I woke up one day maybe 10 years ago, and mind you, I had already been dealing with chronic pain for almost a decade at that point, and I was absolutely 100% pain-free. I literally spent an hour thinking I had died, and then several hours in so much shock that I honestly barely got to appreciate and enjoy a pain-free day. Went back to my regular pain the next day. I've mostly accepted living with chronic pain and health issues, but there are days where I'm envious of those who are regular people. Paying cash for a house. We did this. No mortgage, no rent. It's amazing having that comfort. Amusing anecdote. We met the builder on site and handed over an envelope of actual cash for the first stage payment. There was a moment of confusion, which gradually morphed into mild horror whilst he processed what had happened. I suspect the builder thought we must be some kind of mafioso. My wife disagrees, but I'm utterly convinced we then got better quality of work and fewer delays with the construction of our house. Standing on stage in a big club, raging with your band, and seeing a sea of people banging their heads to your music. Looking down at the people pushed up against the stage and watching them lose it while you launch into your solo. It's a tuck-in drug. You're way cooler than me, but like, I've done stand-up as a hobby, and getting 100 people to laugh on cue to every one of your jokes, exactly how you imagined it. It's incredible, and I'm not even good LMAO. I'm a 66F, and I would say traveling before influencers. I was a Peace Corps volunteer, Paraguay, 79 to 81. My ex and I met working at the Peace Corps office in DC, and then lived in several developing countries in Central America and Asia working for NGOs from 1985 to 1993. Traveling, especially to developing countries back then, was something of a novel idea that required a bit of courage, confidence, and curiosity. Now it seems that interesting locales are overrun with heat-seeking influencers or cumbersome, clueless retirees. Hyperfixations. It's more than just having a passionate interest. It's all I can think about or talk about. Some nights I can't sleep or eat very much cause I'm too engrossed in my current obsession. It can make life hard to function, but it also brings me a level of happiness and excitement that I don't get from anything else. My Adderall makes the hyperfixations reasonable, but Vyvanse speeds it up for me. The one time I did Vyvanse, I lost a month, but ended up with a beautiful Lowell portrait. Thank you.